Welcome back. It's time now for Media Watch. I'm joined by James Creedon in the studio. Hi there, James. Now we're going to start in Mali and the media coverage of that war here in France. And there's something of there's some criticism, isn't there, for the army preventing journalists supposedly from doing their job. What's this about?
Well, I suppose it's in some senses it's a positive sign of the French media because they're criticising themselves. You can see in Télérama and in various other publications a degree of, I suppose it's a bit meta, the media looking at how the media is covering the war. Now, in Télérama and in this blog in Le Monde, the question is, how difficult is it for journalists on the ground? And a couple of points that are made repeatedly are the following. Most of the journalists in Mali are in Bamako. I'm talking about French journalists who've been sent there. They're being kept in Bamako. If they try to go further north in Bamako, either the Malian army or French soldiers will most of the time ask them to turn back. A lot of that is being justified by security issues. A lot of the operations up in the north of Mali are special forces operations. At least they were in the early days, and But of course, there's also the issue of images being used by the media, then being seen by quote unquote the enemy, and strategies, tactics being unveiled in that way. But there's also a freedom of information issue, and journalists not being allowed to do their job. Some are pointing to that and criticising it. So you have that issue. Also, the whole question of whether journalists should be embedded or not. Many are, and when they are, they're not actually seeing what's going on the front line, as Télérama magazine point out in quite a few of their interviews with journalists and photographers who were there. They say, look, we're getting pictures at the airfield, we're getting pictures of the transport of the troops, but not of the actual conflict. Now, there are ways around this. Some have kind of managed to go around the major routes and get pictures. Others have managed to get pictures, other networks, through giving cameras to locals. But let's roll a few pictures now, because these are the kind of pictures we are quite often seeing, provided, in fact, by the army. Now, the agency that provides these pictures is called the Army Communication and Image Production Establishment. Let's get a close-up of these, because you can see here that there isn't any indication as to date, as to location, as to when and where these pictures were taken. So, again,
they don't tell us very much, do they? Really,
they don't. So that is one matter that has been criticised. So that's criticism of the media, if you like.
Now,
or the army, rather.
Yeah. Sure. Then, as you say, there has been criticism of journalists who some say aren't being quite impartial enough.
Right. And this is a criticism of rolling news channels, such as, say, BFM TV. In the Télérama article, they say often you'll hear the expression "our soldiers," as opposed to French troops. So very much a sort of, some of that you would say is to be expected, but some are criticising that, saying it's not removed enough from the situation to be fully impartial. Let's take a look at one extract from the iTélé rolling news channel, and we can talk about how impartial that is afterwards.
Yeah, it's going pretty well. Why? Because we're striking fast and hard. Two main fronts are emerging. It's true, we're finding it tough to keep them together. The main challenge is for us to hold on to the territory that we've gained by airstrikes. These strikes by helicopters and Rafale fighters have caused a lot of damage to the Islamist rebels.
Okay, so, some people won't find that shocking. Others will say he repeatedly refers to our soldiers, our troops, and the Islamist fighters. He doesn't refer to French troops versus etc. So the question that is being asked in Télérama magazine, I keep referring back to that article, is, are foreign networks covering this war more impartially than French journalists and French networks? It's a question that can be asked.
Okay. Now, in another story, tens of thousands of people expected to take to the streets this Sunday in favour of gay marriage and adoption rights. And organisers rallying supporters on all the social media that you could expect, I suppose.
That's right. I think we have some pictures that we can roll. These are the sort of pictures, Tom, that you're seeing across social media being shared under the hashtag Marriage for All. And what you're seeing here is a typical sort of video. I think let's get a close-up of this. What organisers are trying to show is that we are in a sort of progression through history in terms of civil rights, in terms of progress, in terms of freedoms, and that this is just the latest evolution in that general progression. So these are the sort of videos rallying supporters and trying to get everyone out on Sunday, because of course 2 weekends ago there was a huge demonstration against this law, which is due to be debated in a week or so. And so we saw that going back to December, we saw that going back to November. There have been it's almost like a game of tennis between the two, and the pro and the against gay marriage. It's been a very divisive debate. So I'll just show you on the computer now some of the other items we're seeing being shared across social media. You have these banners that people can, cut out, print off and cut out, saying, pointing to Le Figaro newspaper, and in some cases saying Le Figaro think we're going to be there are going to be 10 of us, or 12 of us. D'après Le Figaro, according to Le Figaro, we're going to be 12. So in other words, we're going to be a lot more than that. You're also seeing various other, websites. This is a rather strange thing here, where you have a Catholic website and people are spamming it with messages in favour of gay marriage. That is actually an ironic message, and in any case, it's too difficult to get into the details. This article is the one that most caught my eye today on this issue. It's in the website Rue 89. Now, the headline there is saying, "Let's get married to horses." If I can see it there. This is what my priest cousin said on Facebook. Now, this is a guy called Baptiste de Cazeneuve, who is publicly coming out via this article. Why? Because on Facebook, his cousin, who happens to be a priest, shared this comment, which more or less said, "Oh, and what next? Is it going to be marriage to horses, marriage to various other animals?" He was so irritated and so angered by this statement that took place in private on his Facebook page, that he publicly shared that screen grab of that exchange in this Rue 89 article. So I think it's an indication of how divisive this debate has been. It's divisive within families, and it's divisive, in the public sphere as well.
They're going to have an interesting Christmas, aren't they, this year in that household? Thank you very much indeed. And James Creedon, that was Media Watch. Well, it's time now for a check of what's getting people blogging, clicking and sharing online. Web News starts right now.